right. Hello and welcome to another episode of I Guess I'll Do It with Pat House. Today I have a very good friend of mine. We met at the San Francisco Punchline. Then we worked together again in Nashville. And then recently we just worked in Buffalo together. We've met in a couple of different cities and we've remained good friends ever since. Today I have a fantastic comic, very good friend of mine, Jill Maragos. Hello.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well today. It's crappy and miserable, but I'm good. How about yourself today?
It's sunny and nice out, and I'm good too. I was
jealous,
say but I'm miserable. No, I was gonna say
jealous.
It's nice out.
It is not that way here at all today.
Oh, it sucks so hard. This weather sucks. It's so weird. Like, it's April. It should be nice, right?
It really does suck. And I really think we've had a nicer February here in the Philadelphia area. Like, February was like warm and sunny the entire time, and March and April have been miserable.
Yeah. End of days.
Yeah.
The end of days.
Oh, I forgot something in your intro. I forgot to mention that you were a dog lover and bourbon and whiskey enthusiast. I forgot to mention that. So yeah. I apologize. That would make a great stage intro.
She drinks a lot of Maker's Mark.
Your next act is a dog lover and Maker's Mark enthusiast.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. It's the nectar of the gods, really.
I agree. So thank you for being here. You know, you and I talk a lot of shop. We always keep in touch when we're on the road, and you and I have both been on the road a lot lately this year, which has been pretty cool.
Yeah, right? Finally.
Finally, right? How's your calendar looking for the next few months?
Shitty. Just empty. But that's okay because I haven't talked to you, but just yesterday I finished giving my tracks. I selected the tracks for my album. So
nice. I didn't want to mention the album in the intro because I wanted you to get into it, and I didn't want to put anything out there preliminarily, but okay, beautiful. Let's dive right into it.
I did it. I said it. So which means I'm going to bury that shit in the ground, right? I got to start over.
Now,
do you have
a release date?
No, and I know you told me I should get one, but I don't yet. I don't.
No, that's fine. Just ask Jeremy whenever you get a second. He's very good about stuff like that. But that's awesome. So tell us about your album process, because for me, the first two, I did one show, one take, headlined, recorded it, but my third album was a complete nightmare where like 12 shows were recorded, and the picking and choosing was an absolute nightmare because it was just, you're doing the same bits over and over again. How do you pick which bit did good this night or on this show or that show? Like, I could never do that process again. If there's album number 4, I am headlining a show, and that is it.
It's just the show. Yeah, I hear you. Well, I mean, I kind of did both those things this time. You were with me in Buffalo. And I thought it was so crazy. You lovely, in the loveliest of all ways, offered to feature for me, which felt like, oh God, I should just not let you do that.
I offered because I wanted to.
I know, and it was. I felt bad about the show. The show was not fun. It was just dead. I feel like sometimes people. Yeah, I feel like sometimes people hear, "Oh, she's recording an album." Shh, don't talk or whatever. And that's not really what happened. I mean, a lot of people said they had fun or whatever, but it's like they were watching the TV.
But they weren't vocal about it.
No, and we recorded the rest of the sets that weekend, but 2 shows were kind of weird and 2 shows were killer, but I just didn't feel like I had the 45 from those 2 shows. So started over in Portland, and I was like, I have enough here, and I'm just tired. I'm just tired of this whole fucking thing. So
you just want it done.
I just wanted it done, Pat. I did. And I recorded an album once before in Santa Rosa, and I just did it on my own, and they recorded it at a club. It was just a one-time thing. And I got nervous and I rushed through it, and I never loved it. I never loved that album. So I kind of picked the best material from that, but added new stuff to it. And I just was, when I got the 5 tracks, the 20-minute tracks, I just put them all into Logic Pro, cut those all into tracks, and labeled them as the bit names. So when I went back, I can go, okay, here's, the joke. How much swearing do you have? So one is just called twat. I just always called this joke twat because I originally had the word twat in it, but I changed it because people were like, oh, she said twat. So, twat got labeled in every show I did it. And then I wrote down because I'm a total dork, I wrote down 5 different index cards Like, okay, Thursday I started off with this joke, this joke, this joke. So then when I went through my set, I'm like, okay, I start with this. Let's go to each show that had that. And I could just click through and listen to it and be like, no, to that one. That one was better than this one. And then just, okay, go to the next one. So like it took me a matter of hours to put it all together. It was super fucking easy.
Wow. It doesn't sound easy when you say all that, but I see what you mean. But it doesn't sound easy. That make sense?
Yeah, but it's literally like, you're listening to them all anyway, right? So like, say you sit down to listen to one of your sets, it's literally you're listening to it. You just cut it right after that, cut it after the next one, and then you just got it anyway. And I would take notes like, oh, this one was weak, or this one was pretty good. So when I went back to listen, I'm like, let's start there. If it's pretty good, I just keep it.
Now, how much material did you do on your second album that was on your first?
It's a half or less.
Okay.
I think there's more new stuff on there than I thought there was.
And was the old stuff expanded on? Like you just made it better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, just better, or like this is solid, and I want more people to hear it because nobody, it was on, still on like iTunes and Spotify or whatever, but like, I get the Sirius, or the not the Sirius because I'm not on Sirius, but the Spotify notifications.
Not yet.
Big
You
month.
will be.
Well, I get the Spotify notifications. They're like, big month. You had 28 listeners. I'm like, ooh. Who knows how many that actually listen to it? So I don't know. I figured that stuff at least could be put out on a different, medium or whatever.
That's so funny because I think it was just last week or the week before I got like an $18 royalty check from Sound Exchange, and it's like awesome.
Look at you.
All those Spotify plays are paying off. You know what I mean?
You can buy a drink and tip a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. Or I could buy like 5 packs of gum plus tax. That's what I think. I think that
goes into it, like all the labor and the travel and the stressing over making an album great, and then you get a check for $18. That's what I get. CD Baby, they automatically deposit when it hits $25, so it's like every 3 years I get $25.
It's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So now that so you're done with the album, right? You're done, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. They might come back and go, this is better. We can't do what you want here or whatever. So there's some tweaking, but as far as like the hard work is done, I don't know about like artwork or a name or anything like that.
Okay. Do you feel accomplished, or do you kind of wish you still had a little project to work on with it? You know what I mean? That makes sense?
I feel neither. I just feel like good, it's finished.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I've accomplished anything.
Yeah, I think you will after the release. And there's like, Helium and like a bunch of other comics will help you and post stuff, and then when you see it out there and people react, then you're like, okay, cool, I did something really neat.
Yeah.
That's how I've always taken it. But it's like almost like thank God it's done.
Yeah, I think you're more well adjusted and than I am. I'm just like, oh shit, people. I remember with the first one, I'm like, oh god, people are buying it and they're spending $10, and what if it's not funny? Like, it's just there's always a nightmare going on up in this.
I know, I get that too. There's always a vulnerability too because you're putting yourself out there, and then the internet certainly doesn't help. Where you can be like, oh my god, she's great, or oh my god, this album is terrible. Like, but that's just the internet.
Yeah,
that's just the magic of the internet.
Right, trolls.
You and I, we always, like I said earlier, we always keep in touch on the road, and we always, talk about our shows and shitty crowds and good crowds and whatnot. But you and I have had a couple discussions about like the nuts and bolts in comedy of like what makes a joke work, what makes a joke doesn't work. This might sound a little vague, but what are some of like the little nuances you enjoy with jokes? Is there something you love in a comic, like any comics that stand out to you because they love how they word things or what they do? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that all one question, or did I ask 5 different ones?
But it applies all. I get what you're saying. Like, I mean,
you're an engineer.
Gary
You
Goldman,
pieced it together.
Yeah, I worked it out. Like Gary Goldman, I've always loved Gary because he's like a true joke writer, but he also like wrings all the funny out of the subject. But he doesn't beat it into the ground where you're like, fucking move on. You know what I mean? Like, he makes it funny all the way through. He just thoroughly thinks it out, which I love. you know?
45 minutes on Trader Joe's at Raleigh and Goodnights. I watched him do 45, maybe 50 minutes on Trader Joe's, but it had offshoots. It was customers at line.
Yeah.
It was products. It was the employees. But I swear to you, that whole entire set was under the umbrella of Trader Joe's. And it
Yeah.
didn't get boring. He knew how to break it up, but still keep it on that same straight line.
Yeah. It's an adventure that you
Yep.
go on with them. And he's the same details. Fucking details. Like, I think at least in the audio version of that bit, he talks about like the wife not coming home with the cereal that he calls out specifically, and then the guy's wearing salmon pants, and they have an island in the kitchen in Manhattan. You know, so like it's like the detail, he paints that really
Yes.
vivid picture, which I love. Same with Chris Porter, you know, like he has a bit about like I know that we both heard differently, but like people in the lobby of a hotel, like men in the hotel with, you know, with their families just drenched in Under Armour
Yeah.
and like clenching onto their, like I love specifics.
Michelob Ultra for dear life.
Michelob Ultra, it's hilarious. Like I love the specifics of that. Like
I think people love specifics too. I really feel like that specific, like comedy is a very visual thing. Like when the comic is saying words, you picture it in your head. So I feel the more specific, the more they get a better picture. Like if you say I was hit by a car, that's not as funny as I got hit by a red Ford Focus.
Right.
You know, like.
Right. Or a Toyota Tercel, because I can have alliteration.
Yes.
And teal Toyota Tercel. Yeah.
That did not roll off the tongue very easily.
Teal Toyota Tercel. But if you can pull it off, people are like, holy shit, he pulled it off.
And
like
I believe... Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, but that's like the alliteration, the hard consonants. See, I have a theory, though, about visual jokes. I think you're visual, and I'm visual, too, which is why we get, you know, that stuff like Gary or Chris Porter's, like real specifics. We're sitting there looking at these guys just, you know, slumped in their chairs in a hotel lobby, and we see it. Mm-hmm. But I think other people, they hear it and they hear what's funny. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
I think that's why some people, like I have a joke about dog balls, and you have to see the balls, like to get the joke. Like you have to I'm sorry, but you do have to kind of visualize the balls. And some people are like, "Oh, what?" Do you know what I mean? Or have you
ever thought about bringing a PowerPoint presentation for the crowd so you can show them your dog balls?
I know. I'm so sorry. I'll be like, illustration 1. It's really the old man's balls. Illustration 2, the dog's behind him with his balls. I have to tell people sometimes that's a very visual joke. And then they go, oh, I get it.
Oh, that's really funny. But that on the same token, when you describe this stuff, like for Chris Porter saying Under Armour and a Michelob Ultra, there are people in the crowd who's like, well, I'm that dad. He's describing me.
And that's what's great about it, because they're either like, yeah, I do that. Or, oh, yeah, I've seen you, you know? So, like, it kind of applies to everybody if they can make fun of themselves, you know? Otherwise, they're just, I don't know.
Then they're just sitting there angry, thinking they're being mocked or something. Like, this asshole's making fun of me.
Right. But also, like, the way he did it, I don't mean to be on your podcast, it's break down Chris Porter's comedy. But
no, like, I already did that with him. Believe me, episode's already out.
So already did. Chris Porter, the sequel. We were just wrapping up like one of those bad TV shows that like wrapped up Game of Thrones.
But it's also fresh in our minds because we were just with him last month, so it's still very fresh to us. And you and I, you know, I don't always sit in the back of the showroom and watch the comic, but you and I actually watched him a good amount that weekend, so it's still fresh in our minds. And you and I. Chris is our buddy, but we're also fans. So when we were hanging out during the day, we were still dissecting some of his stuff that we found awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
So, all right, let me go back to the beginning a little bit here. So you have moved around a lot. I think you've told me 44 different cities you've lived in, I believe.
I'm a gypsy. That's not politically correct, is it anymore?
I don't even know, but also nobody cares about them. So you know what? I'm gonna start utilizing that more.
Just gypsy it up.
Like, dude, don't park there. Don't park there. Gypsies hang in that parking lot.
It's gypsy parking only.
Yeah, and gypsies always have
wagons.
Yeah, that's all they have. They have caravans and wagons, and they're all hoarders. They all have their fucking dream catchers and their 70s weave blankets. That's what I picture when I think of gypsies. Because what is the definition of a gypsy? I'm going to look it up right now.
Look it up. I just picture somebody who moves around a lot.
You explain to me your definition. Okay, that you already did.
Of
And
what?
I'm going to look it
Gypsy?
up. Of a gypsy, yeah. And
I
I
think it's somebody
see
with
a
like a
gypsy.
person, like gypsy. I was thinking gypsies, tramps, and something. That's a Cher song. Tramps something.
Um, this is such a dumb definition. A
Read it.
a gypsy is oh cool. Moose just sent something in. That's okay, a member of a people originating in South Asia and traditionally having an
Itinerant.
itinerant way of life, living widely dispersed across Europe and North and South America, speaking a language that is. See, I always think of gypsies as like fucking
Romani.
crazy homeless people in vans, like we were kind of just talking about. Be like, look at that weird gypsy.
Yeah, and I pictured him in the United States for some reason. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Anyway, a nomadic or free spirited person, much better.
There you go. There you
Big
go.
fan of the 6-word sentence. That's all about comedy. You get it short and to the point. Big fan of the
We just have 20
conciseness.
minutes of your podcast on the definition of gypsies.
Okay, so you are from Buffalo, but you did not start stand up there.
No, I
Okay.
didn't. Well, technically, I didn't. I don't think.
Did you start
Uh,
writing stand up there?
no,
Or
you know what?
jot funny or creative ideas down?
You know what happened, Pat? I don't know if I've talked about
Well,
this a lot, but
no,
when I was
you're my guest and I want to hear your story. It's exactly why you're here.
all right. Also, I'm sorry my head's so big and giant in the screen. I feel like I'm gonna be like, okay. Anyway,
Could you stand outside as you tell me the story, please?
um, I was always somewhat funny, and we would have these big family card games, like my extended family, like my aunts, my cousin, and my parents, and all like everybody. We like once a month we go to my aunt's house to play cards and drink, and for money. It's like it was not normal, but I didn't realize it, I guess. But I would have these bits that I would do to them, like they would be like, do the spelling bee bit, or they would say do the spelling bee thing, because they wouldn't call it a bit, but they'd be like, do the
Yeah.
spelling bee thing, and I would just do these things for them. And so those were like total bits, but I never really put it together in my head.
Was it just stuff you made up? Were you just like riffing on stuff from school?
No,
Or
it was like, do you remember like the spelling bees with these little kids, and they're like third grade, fourth grade, and I just always thought it'd be funny if they got like the word vagina. They're like, your word is vagina. And they're like, can you use it in a sentence? And I'm like, ow, you're hurting my vagina. Like, and then, of course, they'd spell it like vagina, V. And I would just like go as slow as VAGINA vagina. And so, like, it was just a dumb, I mean, it was more at the time, but that's like what I remember from it. So, like, glimpses of it,
so
and
did this
then
make your family crack up?
yeah, they loved it. They'd always ask me to do it. There was this guy named, not even lying, Dick. Is his name. His first name is Dick, his last name is Dick. And then he names his son Dick. Like, it's little
Dick
Dick.
Jr.
Yeah, little Dick and big Dick. And then we would be like, here's the, like, how you measure a kid's height on the wall, except it's at a 45-degree angle. It's just like we would just make shit up. Look how big little Dick is getting. Like, it's so stupid, but like that's just what we did. And then I moved from Buffalo to North Carolina for engineering work, which is where I like beat my husband into marrying. I'm like, you need to go out with me. He's like, no. For months, I'm like, God, no. And then we would go to Good Nights to see comedy there.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so
yeah.
I'm going to backtrack a bit. So before you started seeing shows at Good Nights in Raleigh, you had an interest in stand-up. So around what age or what piqued your interest in stand-up? Did you watch comics on TV or?
Always. Are you kidding? Like Eddie Murphy, Raw. Like, we watched all the comedy. Like, I remember watching
As a
it
family, or are you and Matt? Did you watch stand-up
No, as a
young when
kid,
you were?
as a little kid. Yeah, I just always loved it. And then, like, I would do the bits to my parents. Like, I just always loved comedy. Like, comedy's fantastic. And so we went to, like, I wasn't doing it. I wasn't writing it or anything, but I guess I was sort of doing it to my family. And then moved to Raleigh. And then from Raleigh, we moved to California. And I we bought it in a house, and I'm like, before I get a job, I'll just spend time fixing up the house because my dad was a general contractor. I can do all that shit. Like I can do stuff like that. So
Hmm.
in order to get out of the house, I'm like, I'll go be an extra in like movies because they have that in San Francisco. We're in California. So I would do that, and people were like, oh, you should do this. So I ended up starting to do acting stuff, and Matt and I decided to move to Oh no, we're still up in Northern California. Sorry, this is a long story. We're still up
No,
in Northern
no.
California, and I had a friend from California who had moved to LA, and she like I was going down there like every week to take improv classes and just kind of like, go to auditions or whatever. And this girl, she was like totally jippy. She's like, I really want to take a stand up class. She's that girl. Like, will you take this class with me? I don't want to do it alone. And I thought, well, I'd like to know what makes jokes funny for sitcoms. And I really didn't have like a lot of interest in becoming one. But I'm like,
Hmm.
I'll take it with you. And the teacher was like, you're actually really funny. I'm like, thanks,
You're
I guess.
you're
And I had,
actually really funny. I just heard
yeah,
that last weekend. Like, but it's so funny because okay, you're taking a stand up class. You essentially are brand new and don't you know what you're doing, and you
no.
hear you're actually really funny. But I'm coming up on 18 years, and some drunk woman in Virginia said
Look
you're
at
actually
you.
really funny. Like, thank you, thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks. Now I
Because
don't need to
we were
quit
doing
after
a
18 years.
2-person show, and she's always like the first guy always sucks, but you were actually pretty good. So that's
Oh,
where her mind was. But still,
okay.
like people, their
Yeah.
comedy verbiage isn't up to par, especially in
No.
Virginia,
I
because that
liked your
state isn't
skits.
really up to par.
It's below par.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So
So
you're taking a comedy class,
I
and
was, which is always like, oh, don't do comedy classes. But I didn't really have like I didn't even want to do the final show. I'm like, I'm just here for the information. And the teacher was like you should say these things. I'm like, but that's not how I am. Like I'm not gonna say that stuff on stage. So I threw like, she had some good feedback for me, but half the stuff that I wrote in class I just threw out and rewrote like on my own. And then I kind of went back and forth on it. I wasn't going to do the show. And then she's like, do it. I'm like, fine. She got mad at me because I didn't want to do the show. Like it was some sort of big deal. But I'm like, I don't know anybody in LA. Like there's no point. Like I can't, nobody's going to come see me.
was this at a
And
club
then
or who was the
it
class
was,
through?
it was at, it was through like her, Lisa Sunstead is her name. And then it was like Pretty Funny Women or something. So it was all
Okay.
women. She got mad because I like ran stuff by my husband. She's like, never run it by a man. And I'm like, what like, that's so stupid to me, But all in all, it was a decent experience. So like it was at Flappers Comedy Club in the main room.
Hmm.
And I just remember that show that it was like 6 minutes. I'm like, 6 whole minutes? Holy shit. Like I'm gonna die. But then she put me up like last of all the students, and they like I remember getting last where I didn't expect to, and like that like I hadn't really done as a show yet, and this was like a couple hundred, not a couple hundred, maybe 100 people.
Now, is
So
this your very first set? Is this your very first time on stage? This show right
I
now?
had done open mics, but
Okay.
yeah, but I have a copy of it. It's crazy to
Oh,
see it.
you still do?
Yeah, I'll send you a link later.
Please
uh,
do.
I kept some of the jokes. You'll see. But anyway, so yeah, that, and then I was like, I never want to do this again. There's too much drama involved. And then I would have like these crazy things happen. And I'm just like, well, I guess I'm going to keep doing it. Because for a long time, I'm like, I'm not a stand-up comic. I'm just somebody who writes jokes and performs them.
So, okay, if a bunch of crazy things happened, did your mind take that as I know how to make this funny and I want to talk about it? Because I feel like there's
No,
a total connection there. Like when weird shit happens to me, I'm wired to the point where like I'm annoyed or angry, but then I see it's funny and then I get excited because I want to start doing it on stage. So do you have the
right.
same kind of thought process?
No. I was meaning mostly, well, let's talk about that. But what I meant mostly is like, I would just get another gig. I would get paid stuff. People were like, come do this. Like a comic took me to meet Larry the Cable Guy, and he's like, whatever you need, okay? And I'm like, what's that? Like,
Yeah.
like I was getting
Thank,
these like
thanks,
endorsements.
Dan.
yeah, it was super weird. I'm like, what? I'm 3 years in. Like, this stuff's not supposed to be happening to me. Because with acting, it was just like you're just fucking shoveling ditches the whole time just to get scraps. And then in comedy, I just felt like people were like, "Oh no, you're one of us. Come do this thing,"
Did you
which was
see a
a
lot of
different thing.
people acting that you saw doing stand up too? Was there a big crossover?
No, what's really weird to me is actors should be pretty good at it. Technically, like part of the reason that I'm like I don't like acting anymore, but what I get is like, okay, like if you're gonna do a joke, right? You don't want to give away the joke in the premise,
Yeah.
right? So you want to say it like,
It's
I was
like rule
doing a
number
thing.
one.
Right. But a lot of actors who are trying to do it, I mean, like, no, don't say it like, here it comes, everybody.
I
Like that's
know. Or
say
like you
it like,
flub your own punchline. Like you don't like the fireworks involves like the punchline involves fireworks. You don't want to say fireworks in the setup because you already ruined it. They
yeah,
already heard the
yeah,
word. The luster's
right.
gone.
Exactly. So like I try to help this one girl. I'm like, you're giving it away with how you're saying it. Don't say it like that. Say it as though this is normal. And I couldn't teach her to do that, which is odd.
Hmm.
So yeah. Yeah. So what were we going to talk about before we're talking about like
Well,
ideas?
I'm still piecing together you just getting into stand up in general. You're acting. You're doing open mics. When was there a moment where you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm really going to keep doing this.
I don't know. I
Were
don't know
you?
that I've gotten to that point yet. No, you can text me, I hate it. I'm gonna quit now. Um,
We've
I don't.
definitely
I think it's
had our fair share of those texts, but I mean,
yeah,
I feel like that's natural. And then we'll get like gigs, and then we're like, okay,
yeah,
you know what? It's not so bad. That show was really fun.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. It's
that's
not as
it's
bad as all that.
it's a roller coaster. It's life, I guess.
Yeah, I feel. I always feel like it's golf. It's the 18th hole. You play shitty the whole fucking time, and then on the 18th hole, you just fucking it's this beautiful hit that ends up like 3 feet from the hole, and you're like, "Fuck! Now I
And
want
it
to do
keeps
this
you
all
coming
over
back.
again."
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great analogy, and it's funny you say that because I always compare comedy to golf because I suck at golf, but like a couple
Fucking
good
comment.
holes or a couple good shots or even like a birdie and two pars in a row keep you coming back. And it's the exact same thing with stand up, man. Like you
Yeah.
can bomb for 2 weeks straight at open mics, but you get that one good Saturday crowd and they're amazing. And you're like,
You're
this is
like,
why I do
God
this. I'm
damn.
coming back.
Yeah.
I'm coming back.
Alan.
And all that
Yeah.
other shit's out the window. It totally is. You're chasing a dragon.
Yeah, it is. So it's awful. And it always seems like the stuff that happens is like you'll have like, a great conversation with somebody where they kind of like I tend to get like miserable and dark about everything. Like, and
That's
then
natural for comics. That is
I
totally
think
natural for
so.
comics.
But then you'll have a conversation with somebody and be like, all right, and it's hard with comedy because like, well, first of all, sometimes people who book shows, not all the people who book shows, think, well, they just want to do this because they love comedy and they'll drive out for free and they'll work for free and they'll do an hour and it's a job. And, at some point you got to be like, I'm not doing that. Right.
Mm,
But also, like, we also feel like, oh, I get to do this as a general population of people. Comics are like, I can't believe I get to do this for a living. Right.
yeah.
And I look at my husband and my husband he doesn't hate his job, but he's like, I don't know if I want to do this forever. I'm tired. He gets up at 5 a.m. to go and work and I know it's awful, but he does it, like, so there's this balance between like, how much of this is a job and how much of it is just trying to like have fun. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
early on, I like, when you do it at first, you get those laughs. And you're like, God damn, that 18th hole feeling. I always felt like it was a gift to the whole world, like to me and to so like, it's 15 minutes where I forget my bullshit and the crowd forgets their shitty girlfriend or boyfriend or boss or the fucking whatever they have, gingivitis. I don't know. So they are just, I was always gonna say cancer, like that's real dark. Maybe don't forget your cancer,
No,
but
but
like,
they
but
definitely
you
come
know
out to
what I
comedy
mean,
clubs, and so do people with bad teeth.
right? Gingivitis, people call. So like for me, it was like unconditional love. Like you're getting this laughter, you're giving them laughter. It's like this chunk of time where babies don't die and nothing bad in the world happens. But then, like, if you do it for a while, I guess maybe sometimes you lose that thing,
Yeah,
and maybe get it back a little bit, or I don't know.
you bring up a great point because people do go to comedy shows and see music and go to the movies to forget about life for a while, to quote Billy Joel. Um,
So
but
doesn't sound like you're the podcast man.
but as that's so but as a comic, people go to see comedy because they're comedy fans and it is an escape for probably most people in that crowd. But as
Yeah,
the comic and as the musician, I forget that all the time because it's work. I have to drive 8 hours tomorrow. I have to hop on a plane next week. Oh, I'm flying across
yeah,
the country next weekend. Oh, I'm in 3 cities next week. That means 3 hotels and 18 hours in the car. And you
right.
forget this stuff. And even when you're on stage, you're making them laugh, you do the show, you greet people, you have a few drinks. You forget it's all work because you get lost in it. So
Yeah,
lately, I am trying to make it a point now to, when I'm on stage and it's going well, pause a couple times and take it in because it is
really.
fun. Yeah, I try to remind myself lately more and more to have fun on stage, and not that I was ever like miserable on stage or
No,
not having fun, but you just go through the motions. You say the words, they're laughing. I'm really trying to be in the moment and enjoy it more when I'm up there and look at the people laughing and
yeah,
take it in.
I
I
hear
think
you.
because I think I spent 12 or 13 years not doing that.
And it
So
was the last 13 years, probably. Like at first, you're like, "Holy shit," and
so
then you're like, "Oh, this is not as necessarily as fun as all that."
so now that I'm getting older, I just want to. I don't know. I don't know. I just try to take it in and be like grateful and appreciative because you and I do travel a lot and we get
Yeah,
paid to do stand up, and that's just pretty fucking cool. Bottom line.
yeah, yeah. It's uh, it's a lot of the work of stand up is just the work around stand up. You
Oh
know what I
my
mean? Like
god,
the
yes.
traveling and all that shit, and like
I was
writing and
I was talking to Ted Alexandro last week, and we were talking about TikTok, and he's like, whether it's TikTok or Instagram Reels, you put these 30 to 60-second clips up with the words beneath your jokes, and a lot of them hit and go viral. But he's like, it's a full time job during the day, so like, not only are you trying to
yeah,
work on your act and work on your new material and all that stuff, you're spending hours a day on a computer or on your phone just navigating social media, and that's another job
yeah.
in itself.
Oh, it is. It is, and I don't like it, and I don't
I don't either.
I don't
But
do
I
it
mean,
well.
but I get it, and I'm trying to get better at it. I'm trying to get better at it. I'll,
Yeah. Every time I bring every time I bring a tripod, and because I'm 90 years old, I bring my iPad, but it has 4K, so don't judge me. But I
okay.
bring it to set it up to record,
Yeah,
right? And then I don't bring it. I leave it in the room because it seems like a nightmare. And I don't want to
I
be that
did
girl
that
who's like,
last
"Excuse
week.
me, you need to set stuff up. Can I put this here?" And then you are gonna like. I just hate being that person like bugging everybody at the place.
Funny, and I'm not even using this for a cop out. I brought a camera to video record all my sets last week, and I left it in the hotel room on Friday. And I'm walking to the club, and I'm like, "You're a piece of shit. You should have your camera." I get to the club. I don't like the logistics, so immediately I justified it in my head. I'm like, "This wouldn't even be a good place to record anyway."
I
So
know.
I did the right thing.
Yeah, all the
But
audio is gonna
no,
go way up. All the sound's gonna
it
go up.
started
Look
out
how
with
high the
me
ceilings are.
it started out with me being doubtful and lazy, and then there was like a second level, and there was like crowd in the back, but the bar and the sound booth were in a weird spot. So I
Yeah.
was immediately like, you know what, not a good place to record. You did the right thing by
Yeah,
not even trying.
for sure. And I'm gonna back you up on that because I'm the same. It's wrong, but I'm gonna totally be like, yeah, you should. That's good. I feel like every club should just record it and just give you the audio and video.
I feel like a lot of clubs are working on that. Maybe not a lot, but I feel like there are some. And even way back when I first started like hosting and featuring, there were rooftop comedy was a thing, and
Yes.
rooftop, yeah, had cameras in a bunch of clubs. So that used to be a thing. I don't know. I forget what the fee was, but I mean, I would definitely take advantage of that more. They filmed me
Yeah.
in Denver 3 years ago, and the quality was awesome.
Really.
That was, but I didn't want to post stuff because at the time, like my bowling bit, my hotel sex bit, Domino's and Wendy's were all brand new, and they got so much better. So by the time they were on the album, they were, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. For sure. It's funny because like with social media and everything, it feels like we have to churn shit out like constantly. But
yeah,
then like it takes like look, I've been doing this 10 years, and this was like the culmination of 10 years. I'm like, I don't know that I'll be able to record again for 10 years because I'm very particular about like, oh, it's
Well, you
just
never
gonna
know.
get technical again.
I mean, I know I did my first album at 10 years. I did my other one 4 years after that. Then I did another one 2 years after that. And I have a lot of new stuff since my third album. I feel, well, for me, this is just me personally. After
You
an
get
album
better
comes
at
out,
it.
I go on a writing tear, and I like the stuff I'm writing more and more each and every time something comes out. Yeah.
See,
And it's
we're
exciting. But
different.
yeah, but
That's
everybody has
good.
their own process, and that's the
I
purpose of this
know.
podcast.
I'm very particular and like, so have you seen the movie I Am Comic?
Yeah.
There's like a part with Rich Scheidner, who's like the main stand-up guy, and like he's in a room with a guy with a computer. This is like a long time ago, but it decided whether or not he was a headliner based upon the amount of laughs he got per minute. And that was always a thing for me where I was just like, I need to get it tight. Like, and
Bringing math into it.
I did, and I did a competition in Seattle, like the Seattle comedy competition. And I paid attention to what people were doing because I was, again, it was like 3 years in. I had no business being there.
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching and I'm like, I need to cut out any fat. All the fat has to, I don't, you know, if you don't have to over explain everything. Get to it as fast as you can and then get to the punchline as fast as you can because otherwise you're just wasting time. And that became, you know, that took 10 minutes of material and made it 7. And then I would write more and it would just keep getting cut down. So like it's solid, like my material is really solid, but it takes a long time because I'm like, well, I feel like I need to explain this. And then I work really slowly. Like my brain, I'll wake up at 3 a.m. and be like, this is the answer, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't just sit down and like do it. So like the whole goal was to make it nuclear, like, you know,
Oh yeah.
compact it down to make it as tight as I could. But it also means like this one that only gets a giggle once in a while has got to go.
Yeah. What's your okay? Let me ask you this: what is your policy with when a joke has to go? Do you do it 3 times, 5 times, or do you have a number limit? Because I don't, but I feel like if I do, it's between 3 and 5. But that's not like set in
Yeah.
stone. Maybe sometimes I'll do something 3 times, didn't hit, so it's out the act. But sometimes if I really like something and we're hitting 4 and 5 and it still doesn't get anything, it's done.
Yeah. Are you talking early on in the, like, how polished is the bit at this point? Is it 80%? Or
Yeah,
is
let's
it like,
let's
I
let's.
feel like
I,
this
I
is
mean something
solid.
with something. I mean something that's brand new. Like
Oh,
how many times will you try something new, and if it's not clicking, you're just like, nope.
maybe once or twice on stage. But to be fair, by the time I bring it to stage, it's written.
Yeah.
Like
Do
it's written and it's as polished as I can make it on my own. And
you
if I
edit?
think it's funny, then I think it's got a shot. What? Do
Do
I
you
edit what?
do you type your jokes out? Because you and I have sent stuff to each other, so I was wondering if that was a normal thing for you, or are you just an index card lady?
I'll write in a journal
Yeah.
and then I'll go back and be like, this stuff's funny. And then I pull it out and put it on index cards because then I can move it around. Like, okay, I can start with this joke in order to make the story flow. In general, I do storytelling kind of, but then I
Yeah.
prop it up with like, you know, set up punchline jokes. So like, I'll be like, okay, this needs to move around or this is how you close it out because it's like the best joke of all the jokes. So like, end with this or end with this tag. And then when it's there and I'm like, okay, I'll run it 1,000 times in my house like a crazy person. Then, if I feel like comfortable doing it, it's gonna have a better shot at working because they can sense fear or like
Yeah.
reservation about it. So, like, if I'm like, okay, yeah, I got this enough that I can just drink a drink and have a fun time doing it. And it's when it's new, you're more excited about it, right?
Oh,
Because
that's
sometimes
totally
it hits
true.
hard the first time, and then the second time you're like, fuck, it didn't work at all. So, like, if I can get it to work the first or second time, it's good, and it usually is by the time I bring it. It sounds bad, but I throw a lot of stuff out before I ever try it on stage because I'm like, it's just not there.
No, I feel like that's true. I'm gonna mess up the number here, but like years ago, Greg Giraldo said like
That's so good.
95% of the stuff you're gonna hate most of the stuff you write, and that's true because I have filled, I don't know, 50, 60 notebooks at this point, and I feel like I have legitimately 4 hours in my entire career. Like, I mean, it's never
Yeah,
4 hours I would do all at one time, but like I have 3 recorded hours and an hour miscellaneous stuff that's not on albums, but like That's over
Right.
17 years and 50 or 16 notebooks. So I feel like that's
Right.
very normal for comics. Like, I think I've filled entire notebooks and really not even used anything from it on stage. It's just like, whether it's journaling or just this stuff isn't funny or these stories are going nowhere, I'm almost
Yeah.
certain I've had full notebooks where I haven't used anything from them.
Yeah. See, I keep personal journaling away from, like, I use a different book. Like,
Okay.
a joke book's a joke book, and then a journal's a journal. But I
Well,
use journals for joke books.
what's the crossover for that? What has anything ever gone from the journal to the notebook because you're like, oh shit, this is funny?
Not yet, but
Okay.
there is stuff I have. I don't. This is a weird story, and it makes me sound like a jerk. Probably because I
No.
am. But I study Italian, and I decided to take a class, like an in-person class
Well, all
in
Italians
San
are
Francisco.
jerks, so I get it. No.
I'm Polish, so you're not gonna offend me. No, but listen. So, like, it's an in-person class, which as an adult I haven't done in a long time, and I don't know why, but I instantly hated this woman, and, like, I know why, but I shouldn't care. People are like, "Oh, let people be." Nah. And she comes in and she's like, "Oh, ciao, ciao." And I'm like, "Fuck you. You're not practicing with me. I don't know you." Like,
Hmm.
I'm not going to talk to you in Italian. And she's just like, and everybody, like, "Oh, look at me." Yeah. And we all, over the weeks, kind of get in our spots. Like, you always end up sitting in the same chair. And one week she sat in my chair and I wanted to murder her, like, so hard. Cause, like, week one, there's two women in the class named Laura, and one is like, her family's from Sicily, right? Or something. Like, she's Italian, and she's like, "Look, I'm from an Italian family. I always wanted to learn Italian. I don't know Italian, blah, blah, blah." And the other girl is like Dutch or something. I don't know. She's not, she's not Italian. And her name is also Laura. And so the teacher's going around the room going, "Okay, what's your name?" And trying to get to know everybody's name. And Laura's like, "Laura." And then they get to the second Laura. And she goes, "I'm Laura too." And she goes, "But I have an idea." She goes, "Why don't you call her Laura and you call me Laura?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I want you to die, like, today." I don't know
Dude,
what
I
it is
feel
about.
that in my spine.
Yes. And she's just one of those people who's like, "Can you get me a coffee? Thanks." Like, she pre-thanked me, which presupposes I'm going to get you your coffee. Like, I'm paying to get you, like, I just hated her to my core. And it's what made me not want to go back. So, like, to me, there's something funny about the idea of, like, love at first sight. If that exists, so does also hate at first sight. Like, that
Oh,
was
that's really
instantly,
funny. That's
she
really.
just got under my skin.
I think you just told me a brand new bit because all that was funny with the pre thank you.
Oh, the
Um,
thank you.
the joke, I have a joke I do sometimes. It's not even a big staple in any way, shape, or form, but I have a joke about pre thank yous with, like, holding the door. Like, it's like when, like, if somebody's walking ahead of you and you say thank you and they don't hold the door, you're like, okay, that's my fault. I
Yeah, my bad.
assumed that you would do the socially normal thing and hold that
Right.
door, and then you're just an asshole saying thank you with your arm out, like,
Yeah.
because because now you
Like,
have to get the door yourself. You're
yeah.
like,
Thank you for nothing, you son of a bitch.
so I
Yeah.
think you should make that a bit, and please disregard what I just said because they're two completely separate. There are two
Well, she
completely
did
separate.
it as though she assumes I'm going to.
Oh,
Like, "Can you
exactly,
grab me a
which is
coffee? Thanks."
hateable. That's hateable and relatable.
Yeah. Oh, she was the worst. Like, she was the teacher's pet, and it
And
was,
this is a
and I'm
grown
like, this is
adult.
why, yeah, but this is why adults don't take classes anymore.
Oh, that's funny. See,
You
there's
know?
also something funny to me about an adult being the teacher's pet. Like, that shit's out the window at 18. It doesn't even
Yeah.
apply in college, you fucking loser.
Right. No lie. I'm not kidding. The teacher was like, "You could say it this way, but it's just like I'll tell you the easy way to say it," right? Like, I don't remember what it was or whatever, but the lady goes, "What's the hard way to say it?" And I'm like, "Fuck you. Like, who wants the hard way to say it?" And she's like, "I just love learning." I'm like, "Oh."
Hey, we're building a new apartment complex. What's the most
Yeah,
difficult way to
right.
construct this building?
Right. Let's ship in individual stones from Europe
We'll
so
have
that we can
four people on site at all times.
it'll take us 7,000 years. It'll be like the pyramids. I
I
just hated her so much. Yeah.
Oh, dude,
Oh,
I love that story. You painted a good picture. You were descriptive, and I think you just wrote a new bit there.
when she sat in my seat, I was like,
Oh,
and everyone like looked at her like, what
I'm
have you done?
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. I forgot you said that because we got carried on in the story there. I remember I hated when kids sat in my seat in grade school or high school. Like you have
Mhm.
assigned seating and someone's in your seat, it like rocks your world.
Yeah,
You're like
it just
the sky looks different that day. You're like it's not supposed
everything.
like you look at the people
Yeah,
around you. You're like she's closer to me. The teacher's further away. I don't like this. You know,
yeah.
it's
Plus, it's a dick move for the teacher, right? Like the poor teacher, she probably teaches 6 classes. She's Italian. She's struggling to remember everybody's name. And it's easier if everybody's in the same seat. Like, okay, that's
yes.
this woman, but you're mixing us all up. And now it's like harder for her. I went to the bathroom and
And
came
then she
back
called
and
you
she,
Laura.
Laura, you can call me Laura. I'm like, how about I call you bitch face and I punch you in your neck? you know, it's awful.
I
It's
hope
supposed to be fun.
I
Learning's
really
supposed to be fun.
I hope you work on this, and then on your next set of set lists, it says twat again, but a totally different joke.
Twat Laura. It'll be cunt. Yeah. So yes, I'm sorry.
No, sorry for what?
Cuss,
That's so
cussing all
funny.
over your podcast.
No, oh my god, that's totally fucking fine.
Yeah. I was
Um,
curious to talk to you about something. Why do you have a
no, go
question
ahead,
for
go,
me?
go, go.
I'm taking over your podcast now.
No, that's the point. You're my guest. Nobody wants to hear
Have
me.
Have you ever heard the theory that laughter makes people vulnerable? That there's a vulnerability to laughter?
I don't know if I've heard vulnerability, but I mean, go on.
Because like think about it, like if first like a couple of things come to mind, like so you're in an argument with your girlfriend or I'm in an argument with my husband and you make each other laugh, it kind of
Diffuses the
it diffuses
situation.
everything, right? But also like when you put somebody like when you make somebody laugh, they're laughing, they're
The
sort of
guard
in a
comes down.
yeah, they're in like a physically different condition than being on guard. And I think that's sometimes what makes people I feel like that's sometimes what makes comics funnier. It's like, oh, I feel comfortable with this person or I just trust this person. Or like, why, if the room is too bright and they feel seen, they don't they don't like that at all. Because
Like
really,
if
what's the harm in laughing? But they don't like that you see them laughing.
like the
You know
people
what I
sitting in
mean?
the front rows are being judged by the rest of the crowd.
Yeah, or just that they know you can see them and that makes them vulnerable if they laugh.
I guess there definitely is some truth to that because with the people that are sitting in the front couple rows, we can see the stone faces if they're not laughing.
Oh, yeah, we
Which,
do. We focus
which,
on them.
I mean, I've talked about this before, and a million comics have mentioned it as well. Because like we could be killing in a room of 400 people, but if we catch the
Hmm.
person in the second row not laughing, that's all we focus
Yeah.
on, and
Yeah.
that never goes away.
No,
We're
it
fucked up.
doesn't.
We're so
It's
weird.
horrible. Yeah, I can't ignore them. This person was
399
like,
people are on our side and one isn't, and we're like, what? And it's all we can zero in on.
yeah, why do they hate me so much? You know, that's what you think about. Like, what? But they could just be anything, really. They could just be having a rough day, or they're mad at their boyfriend, or whatever.
Yeah, it could,
You
but they're still looking at us, and then we're like, what the fuck's your problem?
know, what you would tell your face? They'll leave going. I had the best time. Be like, really?
Uh,
Tell your face next time.
Tell me about the best show you've had recently. Can you pinpoint one show recently, within the past, maybe in 2022, that was like stood above the rest?
That was that. So, like, leading up to my album, the Heliums gave me a bunch of headliner shows in the smaller room. So like Indy
Mm-hmm.
has their upstairs room and then St. Louis has the garage. And the upstairs, so there were 2 shows at the Helium Indy Helium upstairs, and the
Which
first
is
show
a
didn't
great
go that
club.
great. It is a great club. And that room is you know, the
Both
first
the
show
rooms there are cool. Both the rooms in
yes,
Indy are really cool.
yeah. But the second I the first show I kind of stumbled over, you know, it was my first time running all of my material as a show. So like I was like, I gotta remember this and do this. And then if I have an enemy, like a like fuck this guy, you know, and the feature was very funny and he was lovely and kind, but I decided just to make him my enemy because then I had somebody to prove wrong. So so this poor kid Kevin, he was killing it and crushing it, but I blame everything on Kevin. So I just like walk in being like, fuck Kevin, I'm gonna kill this shit. Like, you don't know me. You don't know me, Kevin. So then I just, and in the room, I was like, I'm like, I need the motivation to do well, like to push beyond and do well. And I'm like, you can't fucking let Kevin win, Jill. You gotta fucking show Kevin up. And so I just was like, watch this shit, Kevin. Like, I didn't say any of that to him, but in my head I said it.
Oh yeah.
And it was just every fucking thing hit. It just was like hit for 45 minutes. And I just like, I almost floated back to my hotel room. Like, it was like, oh, so this is what heroin feels like. This is great.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a feeling you really can't describe to other people when you have those
no,
magical moments. I mean, as comics, we get it because we're just talking shop, but I mean, like, I can't
right.
tell that to like my uncle.
Right. And it's why comics end up doing drugs, because they're like, I was chasing that feeling all the time.
That and just being in a hotel room 13 hours a day for 4 days in a row, 45 weeks a year or whatever.
Yeah, I know, it's really bad. And it's great. And again, it's that 18th hole, right? Where you're just like, oh, the next week I'll go and I'll be like, that was shitty, you know, but then something like that'll happen and it's just magical.
Do you remember, I don't want to say your worst show ever, because we've all had a bunch of nightmares, but does one nightmare stand out above the rest? From any point in your career, a show where you're just like, wow.
There was one up in, oh,
Okay,
there's
there
a
we go.
couple.
That's the
No,
light.
there's, you know what, this is, it's weird how your brain works, right? So I did a show that I thought went pretty well early on at like a bowling alley / dance club / bar in Washington State. And I was like, I don't know, I felt like I did okay. But like when they're like, you got to do 15 minutes, I'm like, these are my 15 minutes. This is all you get. I don't have
I
anything.
have nothing else.
Nothing else. Like, otherwise, I'm just like, you're going to get crickets and silence, because I'm so new at this point. And the show ended, and people were coming out, and there's this guy, and he says, the headliner, oh, you were really funny. And he goes to me, you'll get there someday. And I was like, huh? And I really thought I actually did a good job. Like, I was getting laughs and stuff, and I'm a pretty good judge. Like, I know, like, that wasn't
Yeah,
my
you
best step, but I did, you
gauge
know,
people. Yeah.
yeah. And I laughed because I thought he was busting balls, because it's funny, you know, you'll get there, you know. I go, right. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. Did you think you're funny? And I was like, I mean, and I was like, what's happening? And then the headliner put his hand on my shoulder, like, he goes, you're right. And I was like, and like literally the room started to spin. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not funny. I just was in a hotel room, just not okay for a while. And I just like, now I get it. Like, people are just, he trolled me to my face. I was like, holy
That's
shit. It takes balls of stainless steel. It really does.
that
But
absolutely does.
yeah. And then,
Especially, it's more crushing that you thought you did well and then you just got rocked down.
yeah, just like shot in the face with a shotgun. So then, but like, like, this is the other thing. Like, listening to all 5 of, if we have to go, you let me know if you're ready to wrap up. But like,
Yeah, and if you,
the,
soon. Yeah.
okay.
That's me just stretching because.
Yeah, you're super bored. The listening to those 5 sets back, like, for my album, right? So like, Friday night was the night that Taylor Hawkins died, which really kind of messed me up a little bit. And I had a lot of drinks, and on top of it, they didn't remember bringing my drink the 3rd time, so they brought it up. So I went on stage pretty rocked Friday night. I was real drunk,
Mm-hmm.
and listening back to that set, I was just like, holy shit. Why did I keep saying that? Like, I didn't do the same jokes, but after every joke, I'd be like, that's not good. Nobody was laughing. I'm like, so that's not good. You know?
Did you? I hope you didn't say that into the microphone after every joke on stage.
Yeah, after every joke on stage. Because it was like a joke about where it's like, oh, she called me this. And then nothing would be like, so that's not good. You would get some laugh. I actually used a couple of the jokes or bits from that set for the album, because I did get some stuff right. But listening back, I'm like, yeah, I got a limit. I have to have 1 drink before every show as a compulsion to cheers to my dad.
Cheers.
Like, I always have to, yeah, be like, to dad, and then I drink some. I don't have to drink the whole thing, but it's like a thing. If I don't do it, I get weird. and squirrely, so I have to
Well,
cheer
that's
stuff
cool.
out
That's
of.
like a still like a personal ritual, though.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
comics
and
do all sorts of weird stuff, anyway. So that's relatively on the normal side of things because
it's,
most of us drink before shows, anyways.
yeah, I don't have to like find a sock in the street and chew on it or anything.
Lick the
I don't know
hotel
why that.
walls.
Ah! Oh God!
So you said. So you said you do not have an album name yet.
I should tell you, I think it'd be funny to call it like Peter Frampton Live or whatever it is. Like, what's the best? Isn't that like the
Frampton comes alive.
Frampton comes
What
alive?
was the album? Yeah,
Wouldn't that be funny? Or like Led Zeppelin 4.
that I think that's hilarious. But now I'm thinking, is
You
there?
can't.
You
You
have
can't
to.
do it.
Okay, there's
Yeah, but it would
okay.
just be funny. I don't know. I feel like I thought I would, like people say, oh, when I have a baby, I'll know when I see that baby, like what to name it, you know. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll just I don't know. I don't know.
Cool. Well, this is the first time I'm about to end a podcast and plug an album that does not have a name. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, it's coming out at some point. We don't know what it's called. Follow me on social media. I don't have a cover. I just was like,
What is your social media? Give that a plug here.
And it's just at Jill, Jill, and then Maragos, Maragos.
Cool. And that covers your Twitter and your Instagram, correct?
Yeah, all the things.
Very cool.
There's the two things that I don't do. You want to see pictures of boots I don't wear in real life? Come see me.
There's dog photos in there, too.
There are a lot of dog photos.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you for being here. So we will absolutely plug your album when it comes out.
Okay.
So thank you for being here, though. Dude, we always have great comedy chats. Thank you for getting it on record with me.
I love it.
You got it. Thank you. We'll do it again soon.